Today we're talking flu vaccines, and we've got Lee Baker back. We've had the most amazing conversations about why vaccines are important and what is really in them. Lee, welcome back to Baby Brunch, and a big shout out to Jacaranda FM as well as to Epimax that's helping us make these beautiful videos. I'm going to jump straight into it. The flu vaccine. Some moms are saying, please get it. Others are saying, avoid. What do you as the experts say? Should we get the flu vaccine?
Okay, so undoubtedly we should, and perhaps this year more than ever, because for 2 years we've been very fortunate and haven't had a bad flu season, mainly because of social distancing and lockdown, etc., which has eased quite a lot now, as I'm sure you're all aware. And the chances are that we will have quite a severe flu season this year. We've been lucky to escape for 2 years. But I think that chances are we can have a severe one. And I know people are tired of vaccines as such. It's been really every single conversation, every single news report has been about initially having your COVID vaccine, then having your second one, then having your booster. And COVID has sort of taken over. But the flu virus has not died by any means whatsoever. And the chances are now that we may be even at higher risk because of our immunity that we might have lost because we haven't been exposed. So I really think that this year is more important than ever before. And what we really don't want is to have co-infection with influenza and COVID, because that makes the complications and the severity much worse.
Will the flu vaccine give me flu?
So no, the flu vaccine can't give you flu, okay? The flu vaccines we have in South Africa are not live vaccines. They're not even the whole virus. The virus is basically being killed and then chopped up, and parts of it have been put into a vaccine. So it cannot give you flu. But something else is that the flu vaccine that we currently have protects us against 4 different strains. Okay, so unlike the COVID that is only against basically one strain of virus, our flu vaccines have 4 strains in them, and they're pretty effective against any of those 4 strains. But there may be other strains of influenza around, and then they're not going to protect us against that. The other thing is that without actually having a test for influenza, you don't know that you've got influenza. You've got an influenza-like illness. But there are many different viruses that cause similar symptoms. And the flu vaccine only protects against the influenza virus. So those are reasons why people sometimes say, I still got flu. Even though I had my vaccine, I still got flu. But what I can tell you categorically is that you're better off if you've had the flu vaccine than if you decide not to have it and you get flu.
So how old should you be to have a flu vaccine?
Okay. 6 months older. That is.
How much do they give small babies? How much do they they don't give them the whole dosage?
They do. Okay. And the first time a baby gets the vaccine, it should actually have 2 doses in one season, usually about a month apart, because that primes the immune system. So any child under 9 years of age who is only getting the flu vaccine for the first time must have 2 doses at least a month apart. So why I said that from 6 months is because we actually recommend that everybody has the flu vaccine. But there are certain high-risk groups that we try and push to have the vaccine. And the elderly, so over 65 years of age, because they get hospitalized more, they get more complications, and they really battle to get over flu. But then the next very important group is pregnant women, because you can't give a vaccine to a baby before 6 months of age, a flu vaccine, okay? And they are very prone to get those infections in the first 6 months. And they've done studies that show that if you give the mom the flu vaccine, not only does it give her protection, but for those first 6 months of the baby's life, it gives that baby protection as well. So Do you remember the pandemic that we had in 2009, 2010, the H1N1 pandemic? 28% of the people who died in South Africa from that were pregnant women. So flu in a pregnant woman is pretty severe. So that's the next group that we recommend. Children. It's very difficult to diagnose children flu in a child because their symptoms are not always the same. They have more bronchiolitis type symptoms. They have a higher fever, and they're basically restless and irritable. But they can't tell us about the body aches and pains, which is what we recognize when we have flu. So that's another group. Young children up to 5 years of age is another high-risk group.
How close to a COVID top-up, so COVID vaccine top-up, can you have a flu vaccine? Or can you have the two together? Should you take a preference? Let's say it's time for your top-up and you want to go for your third vaccine. Where does the flu vaccine fit into the sequence?
Okay, so you can now have it at the same time, okay? But have it in different arms.
Right.
So in the past, they used to say you must have 2 weeks between the vaccines, but they've done many studies overseas to show it doesn't increase your side effects. And because we're coming into our flu season and maybe getting another wave, they are recommending that you have them either together or within a day or two, no problem at all. They don't interfere with each other and they don't increase side effects.
If baby is sick or you are ill already, do you go for a flu vaccine? You're not sure what you have, you've got a runny nose and there's a little bit of red eyes or there's some sinusitis. Do you get a flu injection?
I wouldn't, because you don't know whether you've actually got flu. And remember, the flu vaccines don't treat flu at all. They prevent flu. So if you've already got flu and you have the vaccine, it's not going to help that. And you may feel worse. So it doesn't have an impact on the vaccine itself, but we recommend that if you are ill, especially if you've got a fever, that you wait a day or two before you go and have the vaccine.
Antibodies. If you say something to someone, they always say antibodies. Give me some of your germs, saliva. Okay, no one's ever said that, but what about the antibodies? We don't want the injection because it will ruin my life. I want the antibodies.
Unlike your measles vaccine, where you build up antibodies that are around for lifelong, they've got memory cells and they're there forever. The influenza and the COVID ones, which we're learning now, don't give you lifelong protection at all. And that's one of the reasons why we have a flu vaccine every year, because our antibodies wane. And we need to have another vaccine to boost it. And also often the strain has changed. So we need to have one that's going to protect against the current strain.
What do we do after you've had a flu vaccine? Do you do the home remedies and take Papa Carenza C because you might get some symptoms? Go to bed with a Panado. No. You know, when you sniffle, you have to inhale Vicks. You know, put them on your feet. Wear socks at night. Can you tell we do online content? We've got all those remedies.
If they make you feel better, then go for it, Alana. But it's not something you have to do after you've had the vaccine.
Right. Okay.
The vaccine can cause side effects, and they last a day or two. And you can take Panado quite safely if you have any of those. Sometimes people get a headache. The most common thing is a sore arm, and in a day it's gone. So you don't have to worry about that. But some people get a headache. Some people have a few body aches and pains. Then take Panado by all means.
Find out what Lee Baker does. You can find her details right now on our blog on babybrunch.co.za. Lee, thank you so much for your time.